Hey, so in this lesson, we're going to start the process of learning the fretboard. And the way I like to do it is I like to start in the easiest key for music, which is C major. And the reason that that key is the easiest is because there's no sharps or flats in that key. So if I were to spell out the notes in that key, it's C, D, E, F, G, A, and then B. And as we go on the guitar here in a second, those are the only notes we're going to deal with. And it's really easy to do the notes on one string at a time, all the way up and down. This doesn't really get done a whole lot on the guitar in terms of playing, so it's a really good thing to do. It really starts to open up the notes of the fretboard to you, and does help with improvisation down the road, especially as you do it on all 6 strings. So I'm going to start demonstrating it and explaining what's going on, and so you can follow along. So I like to start on the high E string, that real thin one down here. And so what we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to say all the notes in the key of C, so we're going to avoid the sharps and the flats. So, of course, we just play the open E. So we're not going right to C. I want to play every note I can on this string to start to learn the fretboard. So we've got the E note. So now if I go to fret 1, I'm going to get the note F. And if you notice, the E and the F are only 1 fret apart, but you'll notice a pattern where most of the time it's going to be 2 frets apart, except for another case. So from this F, if I come up to the 3rd fret, I'm going to get G. And I'm not too focused on like what fingers I'm using or anything like that right now. I'm just solely trying to learn the notes of the fretboard right now. So now I'm going to come up to 2 frets again to this 5th fret, which is going to give me A. Because after G in music, there's no H. We go right back to A. Then we're going to come up 2 more frets, and we're going to get B. Now, this is the next case where it's going to be 1 fret. Once again, just like E to F was 1 fret. So from the B going to the C, it's 1 fret. Everything else will be 2. So it makes it a little easier to do this exercise. Now from the C, if I go 2 more frets, I'm going to get D. Now if I go another 2, I get E. Now there's certain markers on the fretboard. This is one of them. So fret 12 is the starting point of the fretboard once like over again. So basically this whole part of the fretboard is replicated down here. Now this particular guitar has 24 frets. Not all guitars have 24 frets. So you go as high as you can on your guitar. But this is a cool thing to notice. This dot right here on fret 15, if you can see that, is the same dot down here. What I mean by that is that's going to be G, and so is that. That's also G. This is A, and this will also be A, and so forth. So back to the exercise, 12th fret is E again. So 1 fret now, it's going to be F, so that's 13. Another 2, that's going to give us G at 15. 2 again, that's going to give us A at 15. Another 2, that's going to be B at 19. 1 for C, which is fret 20. Another 2 frets for D, which is 22. And finally, another 2 frets at 24 for E, which is just like this 12th fret. And so theoretically, it'd start over again, but we're out of fretboard. Now, when you're doing this on your own, I highly recommend saying the notes again and going back. But for the sake of time for this lesson, I'm not going to do that right now. But I definitely recommend it. So now, we're going to come to the B string, which is right next to the E string. We're going to do the same exercise. If we play open, we get B. 1 fret away, 1. We got C. From fret 3 for D. Fret 5 for E. Fret 6 for F. 8 for G. 10 for A. 12 for B. Now we're starting over again. 13 for C. 15 for D, 17 for E, 18 for F, 20 for G, 22 for A, and 24 for B. So that string is now completed. Okay, now we're going to go to the G string here. So open G, fret 2 for A, fret 4 for B, fret 5 for C, fret 7 for D, fret 9 for E, fret 10 for F, fret 12 for G, fret 14 for A, 16 for B, 17 for C, 19 for D, 21 for E, 22 for F, 24 for G. Now, on to the D string. So, open D, fret 2 for E, fret 3 for F, fret 5 for G, fret 7 for A, fret 9 for B, fret 10 for C, fret 12 for D, fret 14 for E, 15 for F, 17 for G, 19 for A, 21 for B, 22 for C, and 24 for D. A string is next. Open A, second fret for B, 3 for C, 5 for D, 7 for E, 8 for F, see here, 10 for G, 12 for A, fret 14 for B, 15 for C, 17 for D, 19 for E, 20 for F, 22 for G, and 24 for A. Now finally, we'll do the low E, which will be exactly the same as the high E. So we have the E, F, G, on fret 3, fret 5 for A, fret 7 for B, 8 for C, 10 for D, 12 for E, 13 for F, 15 for G, 17 for A, 19 for B, 20 for C, see here, 22 for D, and finally 24 for E. Yeah. And once again, it really does help with your improvisation, mainly because when you know the notes on your fretboard, it just makes it a lot easier to know what's going on. So if you're in the key of C, for example, with your chord progression that's going on, the more you know where the notes of C are on the guitar, the easier of a time you'll have. This isn't the only thing that will help you learn your fretboard, of course, but is a great starting point. It'll help a lot with everything else. And be sure to use the accompanying PDF if you need it. And just take it slow and again, go up and back down and really make sure you're saying the notes out loud. If you're not saying them out loud, it won't be as beneficial to you. All right, take care.